In the past, Gaius fights against a dragon and laments over the inadequacy of his first crest and goes over the powers of the other 3 crests. It's then that Gaius casts a spell to reincarnate himself. Within the present day, Gaius is now a young adolescent boy going by the name of Matthias and has the crest that he always wanted, the 4th crest, as he rides on a wagon heading toward the capital. His goal is to take the examination in order to enter the academy there. En route to their destination, Matthias senses the presence of a calamity-ranked monster nearby. The wagon driver brushes Matthias' claim off, but when a big tiger-like beast confronts them, Matthias immediately deals with it, leaving the driver astonished. Arriving at the capital, Matthias enters a weapons shop where Alma begs the store owner Baze to repair her friend's broken magical sword. However, Baze refuses to repair it as it's impossible for him to do. Impressed by the sword sold in the store, Matthias overhears the conversation between the two, and when Alma requests a new sword, he offers to enchant it for her. Despite having an inadequate crest to do it, Alma insists that he do it with the magistone that she has on her person. Baze tries to admonish Alma from allowing Matthias to enchant the sword, but Alma has faith in him. The two then sit at a table and introduce each other, and Matthias asks to be called Maddie instead of Matthias. Amid their conversation, Alma's friend Luri arrives and Alma introduces Maddie to her. Once Baze is finished with Luri's sword, Maddie immediately enchants it, which surprises everyone with how fast he managed to do it. Right as Luri was about to try it out, she accidentally slices the table they were sitting at in half, astonishing everyone. Claiming that he gave it a simple enchantment, Baze notes how Maddie accomplished this task not only quickly, but chantless as well. He then asks if Maddie would like to become an enchanter, but he flatly refuses. On the day of the exam, Maddie meets with Luri and Alma again. Luri manages to pass the fighting portion of the exam, and when it's Maddie's turn, he faces off against Guile. He mentions Maddie's father's name, noting he wishes to see how well his father taught him swordcraft. The two fight and Maddie easily wins because of the magical enhancements that he made to his sword during the fight. The next portion of the exam is a target practice, where participants need to cast fire arrows aimed at the 5 targets. Luri goes first, and with her first crest, she manages to hit all of the targets, and Maddie cogitates on how counterproductive the modern interpretation of crests is. For his part of the exam, Maddie casts a fireball spell due to the limited range that the 4th crest has. The end result leaves a giant crater left in the center of the exam site. Afterward, now fitted with an academy outfit, Maddie runs into Alma and Luri, with whom together they attend the opening ceremony. Headmaster Edward gives a brief speech, and after it requests that Maddie head to his office once the ceremony is over. Anxious that he's going to be expelled for the incident where he destroyed the exam grounds earlier, despite repairing the grounds with his magic. In Edward's office, Edward recounts Maddie's accomplishments during the exam, but doesn't reprimand him nor pry any information on how he was able to accomplish such feats. Instead, Edward requests his aid in regards to the chantless spell casting. Because the Academy follows its Academy curriculum, which denounces the use of chantless spell casting. This leads to why Edward wants Maddie's help. He wants him to become a teacher of chantless spell casting in preparation for the upcoming inter-school competition. Sometime later, Maddie demonstrates his chantless spell casting in front of the Academy students, and another teacher named Gazel also helps demonstrate. By dusk, Alma demonstrates to Maddie her newly learned chantless spell casting skills, and due to Luri running low on magic, Maddie transfers some of his to her. This allows Luri to successfully cast a chantless spell to destroy a target. On the day of the inter-school competition, Maddie senses a demon somewhere within the arena grounds. As it so happens, Maddie faces off against the demon named Devlis, who was disguised as a human with a first crest along with his cohorts. Maddie instantly finishes off the cohorts with a single spell and provokes Devlis to cast nearly a spell without chanting. Again, Maddie provokes the demon by making him use chantless spells and deducing that the demons want to make human spells weaker. Using a spellbreaker, Maddie dispels Devlis' human disguise, and the newly exposed demon tries to escape only to be beaten by Maddie before he's able to do it. While the students and some of the faculty surround the dead body of Devlis, Maddie is hugged by Luri for beating the demon in disguise. Later at the royal castle, Maddie and Edward are allowed an audience with the king who wanted to grant Maddie a fief. But that would cause a panic within the kingdom. That was mainly due to the recent news of demons infiltrating their ranks as normal citizens. Instead, the king grants Maddie's request for all rights to the possessions gained within the dungeon. Once that's settled with, the king asks for Maddie's opinion on the disappearance of the 4 magical chosen ones. It's the king's opinion that since the appearance of magical chosen ones several hundred years ago, demons have slowly managed to infiltrate human society. From Maddie's internal monologue, during Maddie's past life, he drove the demons to the brink of extinction. It's speculated that the remaining demons infiltrated human society and spread magical misinformation, causing humans' magical power to wane over time. Although the king believes that the situation involving the demons has been resolved, Maddie clarifies that the situation is direr than ever. In Maddie's opinion, if the demons believe that it's no longer necessary to masquerade themselves as humans, their next move would be mustering their forces for an all-out attack that would destroy the kingdom. Maddie surmises it'd take 3 months for the demons to gather enough forces to accomplish this task. With the situation looking bleak, Maddie assures the king that what's needed is a barrier that would cover the entire kingdom to protect it. All that Maddie needs to cast the barrier is a divine class artifact and the help from all 2nd year students to project a permanent barrier around the kingdom. Preparations for this task can be completed within a month's time and suggests that the students continue learning chant less magic. Taking what Maddie said into consideration, the king appoints him the leader of the fight against the demons. Inside the castle treasure room, Maddie finds a couple of old artifacts that he created in his previous life. Those artifacts are a magical sword and a pendant, which is a magical accessory that greatly increases the XP gained from battle. Later outside, Maddie oversees the students of the academy practice chant less magic. Both Luri and Alma then approach Maddie about what they heard from Edward concerning the barrier. Maddie confirms it and claims that he'll be exploring a dungeon to collect the necessary items for him to accomplish it. The news surprises the two, and Maddie has an epiphany to have the two of them join him as a party to explore the dungeon with him. At first, the two are reluctant to join him due to their self-confessed inadequate fighting capabilities, but after giving them some tips on archery and enchantment magic, they agree to the offer. Eventually, the group makes it to the dungeon, and there Maddie fetches a tiny monster, and they use it as target practice to allow Alma to get the hang of her newly learned enchanted archery. The practice continues for a bit, and after Alma learns the basics of the thread-guided chant, she's tasked by Maddie to kill 2 monsters with a single arrow. Alone with Luri, Maddie teaches her how to filter and compound the dungeon material or its ore into metal. By doing this, they gain mithril and iron clusters, and Maddie promises to teach her how to make the newly acquired ore into enchanted weapons. Elsewhere, Alma manages to kill 3 monsters with her thread-guided chant skill while only using a single arrow. Regrouping with Maddie and Alma, Luri witnesses Alma trying out some weapons that she created, and Luri then makes some plated armor for her and Alma. Maddie then announces that they'll be hitting the 10th floor of the dungeon, and will serve as a test for the skills that they've learned to that point. During their way to the 10th floor, both Luri and Alma excel in their combative capabilities and gain enhanced XP due to the pendant Maddie wore. Soon the group faces off against a killer dog, and it's thanks to the cooperative teamwork between Luri and Alma they managed to kill it. Once the killer wolf was dealt with, Maddie sets up camp and temporarily leaves the party to explore deeper parts of the dungeon. Down in one of the lower floors, Maddie finds adamantite and gets interested by the presence of a boss monster on the floor below where he was currently. Following his interests, Maddie goes down a floor and faces off against the boss monster, which is an arc serpent. The battle against it is tough, but Maddie in the end wins against it. 2 demons feel the massive burst of magic, but think nothing of it, as it's figured that humans are incapable of wielding such potent magic in that day and age. Upon returning to the 2 ladies, Maddie shows them the corpse of the boss monster he defeated, which shocks them immensely. Maddie, Luri, and Alma visit the local adventurers guild to turn in the goods they found during their time in the dungeon. The receptionist there mistakes Maddie as the porter of the party, to which he claims that he's carrying his own material and summons the severed head of the arc serpent from his inventory. Outside, the receptionist appraises the arc serpent head and then the magistone that came from the body of the boss monster. Although believed to be equivalent to a national treasure, Maddie claims it's not big enough to power the barrier to protect the kingdom, despite the receptionist claiming the guild doesn't have funds to buy what Maddie's party provided. In the end, they still earn 750 gold. While walking back to the academy, it's decided that the money will be split 3 ways, and after that was settled, Maddie notices the presence of 2 powerful demons. After a brief moment, both Luri and Alma sense it too. Up in the sky, demons Ashral and Desral plan on launching an attack on the Royal Academy. Back to Maddie's group, Maddie gauges their power and warns that one of them is stronger than Devilies. The group then separates into 2 groups, where Maddie plans to face off against Ashral and both Luri and Alma will face off against Desral. Wasting no time, Maddie confronts the 2 demons and goes on the offensive. He manages to take control of the fire spell cast at him by Ashral with one of his magic control spheres and propels the spell back at Ashral. Furious that Maddie attacked his master, Desral tries to attack Maddie, but is instead struck by a couple of arrows shot by Luri. The arrows have a waning power effect on Desral, and he's then tasked by Ashral to deal with the girls while he deals with Maddie. Alone with Maddie, Ashral starts to cast a large spell that's great enough to destroy his control spheres. But Maddie casts a small fireball at the spell's weak point to destroy it outright. As Maddie gets the upper hand in the battle, Ashral tries to escape, but is stopped by the elusive control spheres that Maddie scattered across the battleground. When Maddie tries to attack Ashral again, he reveals the concealed spell-casting circle that he was cast protects him. The 2 continue skirmishing until Ashral decides to stop it then, and he's then encapsulated in what's called an occlusion orb. It manages to floor Ashral to the ground, and when he tries to cast a sacrificial spell to summon monsters, Maddie cancels it out as well. Focusing on the girls' fight against Desral, their guerrilla tactics against him work greatly, and in the end, Maddie steps in to help finish things off against the demon. Although the demons were dealt with, the battle against them drew attention from onlookers around the city. Hence Maddie takes the girls in his grasp and uses a levitation spell to flee the scene. The following day, Maddie, Edward, Luri, and Alma are granted an audience with the king, who offers Maddie another reward for his group's recent accomplishment. After carefully contemplating it over, Maddie requests more dungeons and the king honors his request. Turning his attention to the girls, the king asks what they'd like, and both Luri and Alma decide on money for their reward. Once that was settled with, Maddie calls out the demon spy surreptitious watching their conversation. Because the demon refuses to reveal itself, Maddie disrupts the magical visual feed cast to watch their conversation, making him scream in pain. The king recognizes the voice as Elhart, former captain of the Magic Order. Astonished by this, Maddie explains to the king how Elhart was able to accomplish this feat. Gauging the coordinates of the location where the spell was cast, Maddie asks the king what location it would be. The king answers that it's a ruined village. Although the distance from the castle to the village is a great one, Maddie has a backup plan that'll help them reach their destination in no time. Maddie and the party then head to a dark and desolate location, while Edward and the academy students prepare 1.5 tons of mithril in his absence in preparation for the barrier. Within the desolate location, the group finds a giant black dragon and Maddie talks with it, revealing it to be an old acquaintance of his from his previous life named Iris. After Maddie repairs Iris' tattered wings as much as he so can, Iris allows the party to ride on her back and rides at a slow enough speed so that they don't die in the process. Upon reaching the ruined village, Maddie instantly deals with the demon stationed at the watchtower. Luri, Alma, and Iris watch this accomplishment in utter shock and amazement. Noting the magical presence that Maddie felt there is the same from the castle, Maddie notes that one is Elhart, who would pose a little threat, but the other would be more of a challenge. Amid this contemplation of his, Maddie is nearly struck by Iris, who crashes into the small tower that he stood by. Iris crashed into the tower because of her being out of practice for landing. Inside the small tower, Maddie establishes a telepathic communication line with Luri and Alma. Furthermore, he gives Alma a casting circle as a way to go on the offensive. Within the next room, Maddie tells the two to stay quiet as the enemy is using a concealment spell to hide their magical power and presence. Asking if either of them senses a spot where there seems to be scarce magical power, Alma informs Maddie that there's one in the corner. Maddie then unveils the demon's presence, who still believes he's still invisible to the group and is then shot in the forehead by Luri's thread chant arrow. Upset that his cover was blown, the demon figures that Maddie is really a fake, as the real one was still in the capital. The demon then attacks Maddie as he instructs the girls to go on the offensive with enchanted arrows against the demon, who believes Maddie to be an imposter. As the demon continues to attack Maddie, enchanted arrows are shot into its back, causing his internal magical power to agglutinate. Left with no other alternative, the demon casts this fortune, which transforms the demon into a bigger, bulkier form and gains tremendous power in exchange for the user's lifespan. The demon then tries to attack Luri and Alma, but what he attacked was an illusion made of magitoxins. Luri then finishes the demon off with an arrow at the demon's head, and Maddie calls the demon by his name Elhart, instructing Luri and Alma to ride on Iris while he takes care of the final demon. Maddie prepares for the upcoming battle by crushing a few magistones to create a magical calamity. This causes the remaining demon to disperse from his mist state. The two briefly talk and then start the battle, where the demon gets the upper hand on Maddie and cuts off his left arm. Confident in his position within the battle, the demon offers Maddie a choice in how he'd like to die. But Maddie, after analyzing the situation, reattaches his arm, which surprises the demon. Internally, Maddie claims that he imbued his severed right arm with a healing spell and an analysis spell, all while dodging the oncoming attacks from the demon. Astonished that he's unable to land a single blow on Maddie, Maddie reveals to the demon that he allowed him to slice off his arm. Maddie then cuts the demon's right wrist with his sword laced with some magitoxin believed to be the same kind used on Elhart. Backed into a corner, the demon casts Magic Circuit Overload, a more advanced spell than the one Elhart used on himself. Once the spell is cast, the demon shrouds the area in mist while concealing his presence, but Maddie easily cancels it out. Maddie also reveals that the substance used on him earlier wasn't the same toxin used on Elhart, but one that draws in excess magic to the afflicted's body, causing it to explode. What's left behind after the demon explodes is a giant magistone, and Luri leaps off of Iris to jump onto Maddie. After Alma joins the two, Maddie informs the two about the magistone called the Dragon Vein and explains its backstory. It's deduced by Maddie that the spell circles carved into the vein revealed that the demon's objective was to create a horde of monsters. The number of monsters in the horde was said to be about 5,000 by Maddie, and the target area would be the capital. Despite the girls' worry about the horde, Maddie informs them that the spawn point was moved by 10 kilometers due to the explosion caused by the last demon's explosion. Riding on Iris back again, the group head back to the capital, but Iris asks what she should do once she drops them off. Hence, since Iris is capable of casting a human transformation spell, he suggests that she join the academy. Although Iris is a bit hesitant, she still agrees to the offer in the end and transforms into her human form, in the nude. That night, the group, now with Iris, turn in the spoils from their demon hunt to Edward, who praises Maddie for his good work. Maddie then asks to have Iris transfer into the school, and Edward allows it so long as she passes the entrance exam fashion test within a 4750 range. Although Maddie agrees to the condition, he asks to be present during the exam to make sure that Iris is able to control her magical output during it. Outside, Alma asks why Maddie omitted the monster horde from Edward, and he claims that he felt it best to inform him of it after Iris passes the exam. He also applies a fake second crest mark on Iris' hand, just like Devley's had. On the day of the exam, Iris flops on the written part. On the sword battle part, she knocks her opponent into the roof tower. This makes Edward question if she's a normal girl or not. Finally, in the magic casting section, Iris casts a couple of spells that backfire, and the final spell she casts destroys the entire magical target ground. In the end, however, Iris passes the exam. In the dungeon where the students of the Second Royal Academy excavate the place, Maddie gets an update of the current situation from Edward. As it turns out, the most efficient crest for the task is the Crest of Glory is scarce due to the First Royal Academy having a monopoly over them. Maddie then asks if it's possible to ask the First Royal Academy to enlist some of its students to help their cause. Although Edward is conscious of the relationship with said academy, he says that he'll honor it for the sake of the mission and will have the king intervene. Eventually, Phacus, the head of the First Royal Academy, abruptly enters Edward's room and chastises him for summoning him. When Edward reminds him that there is no hierarchy between the academies, Phacus again chastises the Second Royal Academy as inferior, giving Maddie a flashback of how his older brother Bifker behaved. However, Edward skips the hogwash and requests Phacus help to erect a barrier around the kingdom to protect it from the oncoming demon invaders. Of course, Phacus refuses, still holding on to the hierarchy. Hence, Maddie proposes a competition to settle the matter, and Phacus agrees to it on the condition that Maddie and his party don't participate in it, calling him a monster. Despite Edward's hesitance, Maddie agrees to it, and Phacus sets the competition to be in 2 days' time. On the day of the competition, the large number of First Royal Academy faces off against the Second Royal Academy's mere 5 students. The students' crests were comprised of ones with the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th crests. At the start of the make-up in term battle, the First Academy all start the incantation for Fire Arrow, only for the Second Academy students to surprise them with wordless casting, easily winning the match by overwhelming their opponents with their chant Less Magic. Refusing to accept the end result of the battle, Phacus claims that all 5 of the Second Academy students were monsters, and that he specifically demanded no monsters. Edward then states that none of the Second Academy students' ability are significantly greater than any other. When Phacus demands for proof, he then demands that Iris take part in the battle. After she says she didn't bring a weapon, Maddie gives her Edward's sword. Right when she unsheaths it, she bends the blade like a limp noodle. This causes Phacus to lose his composure and call Iris a monster, much to her chagrin. Edward then questions Phacus on why the Fist Academy students are still using incanted magic, despite the king's orders to switch to wordless casting, whereas Phacus argues that it follows the educational principles of the kingdom, and that he must protect it from the other, inferior crests, even if it goes against the king's order. The king then appears, asking if Phacus has decided to disobey orders. Having been exposed as a traitor, Phacus tries to defend himself, only for the king to have his guards seize him. As he is dragged away kicking and screaming, Phacus curses the Second Academy, swearing that they will pay. From there, the king orders the First Academy students to work with the Second Royal Academy and receive chant Less Magic lessons. Eventually, Maddie is accompanied by Iris, Alma, and Lurie while exploring the deeper caverns of the dungeon. Their goal in the dungeons is to get a Magistone that's 60 centimeters in size. How they'll get a stone of that size is by summoning a monster. The girls then face off against some dungeon monsters as Maddie evaluates them and notes how poor Iris' control over her strength is. With an adequate-sized Magistone, Maddie has Lurie cast a casting circle around it and receives some help from Maddie. Once completed, Maddie has Iris infuse it with some magic, but she infuses too much into it, causing a giant dragon to be summoned. Following Maddie's orders, Iris disparages the dragon and keeps it distracted long enough for Lurie to enchant an arrow, have Alma shoot it at the dragon. This proves futile as the dragon continues to go on a rampage, but Maddie insists that they continue as he sets up more casting circles. In a pinch, Iris rescues Alma and Lurie the moment the dragon tries to attack them by punching the dragon away from them. The end result of the battle is that Iris provokes the dragon to cast a breath spell and Maddie captures it so he can reflect it back at it. It nearly fails due to Iris falling into a body-shaped pitfall she created, and Maddie uses a barrier to protect her, leaving him exposed to the spell's explosion. However, Maddie makes it out unscathed, and after Iris fetches the Magistone, Maddie offers her to officially join the party. Even though it's official that Iris is now part of Maddie's party, he has Iris train in the ruined training ground to get used to her new human body. Because she's bad at watching her footing, Maddie ruined the training ground to help train herself to develop some muscle memory. The first challenge imposed onto Iris is protecting a shell on top of her head while using as little movement as possible to dodge the oncoming arrows shot by Alma. Lurie, in the meantime, was assigned to create armor and weapons by Maddie so she can level up her enchantment skills. He also asks for a sword created just for him. The sword itself will be a layered one so it can handle 8 different kinds of enchantments. Following Maddie's instructions, Alma manages to create the sword and Iris manages to get used to dodging Alma's arrows, all while protecting the shell atop her head. Maddie then has the party try out their new weapons that Luri created for them. Luri creates a new sword for herself, Alma a new bow, and Iris a new spear. With everything going smoothly with Maddie's plans, he notes that he'll be leaving the Second Royal Academy soon enough. Edward gives a formal speech to the students at the Second Royal Academy students concerning Maddie casting the barrier over the kingdom. It's thereby the students' job to protect the capital by engaging against the invading monsters and demons. Meanwhile, the remaining students help Maddie clear out the dungeon for resources, and Alma and Luri report that the demon's presence has been detected. Maddie figures that what they were detecting was the demons using a spell called Magirode and asks that they take care of it. Following the lead of an unnamed student, they reach their destination, and seeing that they have time to prepare before the demons arrive, Alma and Luri do so, recalling Maddie's instructions to fight against the demons by using the special metal arrows and to imbue them with whatever spell is decided to be best. Despite Luri's hesitance, Maddie has faith in her, and Luri understands. After imbuing the arrows with her magic, Luri gives them to Alma. The unnamed student who watched the entire procedure was left astounded by how Luri managed to create her own casting circle. Just then, a single demon exits from the Magirode portalway, and Alma kills it with a single arrow. Another demon then appears and the arrow shot was not enough, hence, Luri finishes it off with her sword. Elated that they managed to successfully complete a dispatch for the first time together, they then sense a surge of energy from the capital. Returning to Maddie, he assures the two that everything is fine, and that what they felt wasn't beyond his expectations. Maddie goes on to explain that what they felt was a spell more advanced than Magirode that requires a sacrifice in order to complete. Before the new onslaught of demons arrives, Maddie has the two girls head back to the surface and prepare for the arrival of the demons. The two understand and head off back to the surface. Iris then appears and drops off 40 boxes of mithril for Maddie. Outside, Luri and Alma meet with Edward, and he informs them that Maddie left them an abundance of magistones. They figure it's for casting circles so Luri doesn't have to worry about messing up. At that moment, a single demon appears and after assessing the situation, casts a spell at the students there only for it to be blocked by one of Maddie's spells that he cast earlier. Under Edward's orders, a couple of students cast spells that are unable to reach the demon, so Alma shots an arrow at it, which the demon catches and breaks. With Luri's hands full with enchanting arrows with a complex casting circle, Edward and the entire student body try to buy time for Luri by empowering the defensive spell that Maddie cast. Finally able to create an imbued arrow, Luri gives it to Alma and she shoots it at the demon who dodges it. However, Alma redirects the arrow's direction, and it lands the demon's heart, and then some students then cast fireballs at it to finish it off. Their victory over the demon was ephemeral as another demon appears to cast an even more potent spell than the last demon named Burlia's cast. Now without any protection from Maddie's spell and surrounded by a large number of demons, all hope seems to be lost, but Alma still insists on buying time for Maddie's sake. On the other hand, Maddie appears and handily defeats all of the demons. A little later, Maddie joins Edward, Alma, and Luri who praise him for his successful dispatch, and Maddie owes the victory to the sword forged by Luri. Maddie then reveals that it finished the barrier and that Iris and the others are preparing the rest. Maddie, Alma, and Luri then go to the barrier crystal area and Maddie then inserts a magistone piece into the crystal which erects a barrier around the city. Although the barrier has been cast, Maddie warns that it's not over yet, as the demons they defeated will empower the dragon vein they encountered before. All of that will cause a larger horde of monsters to appear. An oncoming stampede of monsters could be seen over the horizon and are dealt with by the combined efforts of Maddie's traps laid across the battlefield and the students' barrage of spells. 3 giant monsters then appear on the field and Luri, Alma, and Iris deal with them. A monster known as the Void Eater appears and starts to devour the remaining monsters around the field, and Maddie gives Luri a casting circle to enchant and throw into the monster. The reason why Maddie requested that was because Void Eaters don't provide good materials. Therefore, the circle given to Luri would allow it to evolve in a form that's materialistically suitable. Once the monster's evolution is complete, through the combined efforts of Maddie, Iris, Luri, and Alma, they defeat the monster. Eventually, Maddie reports to Edward that he plans on leaving the academy to search for more dragon veins scattered across the land. Despite there not being anything left for him to learn there and not wanting to expel Maddie from the academy, Edward proposes that he stay connected with the academy on a special scholarship. It's so the academy can flourish greater with all of Maddie's achievements under its belt, but also for the kingdom and the academy to offer their aid in a time of need for Maddie. After considering the offer, Maddie accepts it. The offer is also given to Luri and Alma, who both accept, as does Iris. When they're all prepared for their journey, the group are seen off by Edward and their student peers. Maddie and his party walk down a pathway leading out of the capital and head to the Melkia dungeon, a dungeon located in a city, to which Iris is given an explanation from Luri about what a city dungeon is. This information surprises Maddie as such a place never existed in his past life. Although Luri notes that it'll take a day to reach their destination, Iris states that they reach the place that night. Luri then asks if they plan on passing through the forest of Chikarasubia, and Alma mentions that it's inhabited by strong monsters, one of which is a smart one. Hearing this interests Maddie much to Luri and Alma's dismay. After traveling for a while inside of the forest, the group decides to have lunch and Maddie suggests that they get their food there rather than from their supplies. Maddie then heads off and notes that the surrounding monsters' movements are conspicuously made in an orderly fashion, leading him to believe they're following orders from someone. It's deduced that the culprit is the smart monster, and then Maddie is ambushed from above by a white ape monster. Returning to the group with the monster's corpse, a frightened Luri reveals that it's called a wisdom monkey that's known for its smart intellect. Although Iris doesn't think the wisdom looks tasty, Maddie reveals that he also hunted a giant boar as well, which delights the ravenous Iris. The ladies then prepare to gather what they'll need to make some boar soup. However, due to Alma making the pot explode because of some ingredients she found, they all just try roast boar meat instead and enjoy it. Later, Alma insists on the group trying her soup and Iris tries it, but vomits it out. Figuring that Iris' presence and defeating the wisdom monkey has caused the monsters in the forest to want to avoid them, Maddie suggests that they move onward. By dusk, the group reaches their destination, Melkia. Inside of the city, it's notably a seedy-looking area, and while fascinated by the magical lamppost, they're warned by a merchant to stay away from it as it's known to explode. Moments after this warning, the lamppost does explode, and the group learns from the merchant that the new lord forbids using magistones to power the magic lampposts. This is because magistones are a precious commodity, and that abstracting power from an alternate source is more efficient, mainly the dragon vein. Maddie then asks if the town's populace is so low because of the lord, and the merchant confirms it, noting that a powerful monster on the 10th floor dungeon has. After purchasing 4 apples for the group, Maddie's group wander around the town taking note of the condition of the surroundings. They then head to the Adventurers Guild to get permits to be allowed to investigate the dungeon. However, they're told by the guild receptionist they need the approval from the lord to get the permits. Still, Maddie insists on getting permits, and the receptionist agrees to start the process. Just then, another receptionist barges through the entrance of the guild and asks if there's anyone who knows of any healing spells, as there's a bunch of injured adventurers. Maddie then volunteers himself, and the group is led to the local church. In complete shock by the number of injured and the inadequate number of healers there, they learn that the Lord fired most of the healers, claiming they were a waste of money. Resolved to save all of the injured people there, Maddie appraises the condition of each injured person there and marks with a wooden tablet as a form of triage. Before Maddie can start working, he's stopped by the head healer there, but Maddie shows him his healing capabilities, and with his crest heals a heavily injured person. With the help of everyone there, the group manages to heal all of the injured people. From the head healer, Maddie learns of how the previous lord was replaced by a new and incompetent lord. Deducing that the current lord could be a demon, Maddie plans on eventually meeting with the lord. In their room at an inn, Maddie composes a letter to Edward, and with their newly granted permits, it's decided to investigate the dungeon the following day. The next day, the group reaches the dungeon gate, and it's noted that the quality of the door is flimsy, making it easy for the dungeon monsters to break through. Sometime after they enter the dungeon, they report their successful subjugation of the 10th floor monster, and are told by the receptionist they'll be paid at a later time. This is because the Lord needs to confirm it, who later receives a letter about it and grows interested in the party. At a restaurant, the group eats some dinner and Maddie notices that a table not too far from them has their eyes on them. They're followed by those people when they leave the place and head back to the inn, whereas Maddie plans on unmasking the corrupt Lord. On their way back to the inn, Maddie has the group take a detour through a side street. Telepathically, Maddie tells the girls to stay calm and warns them that they're being tailed by the Lord's henchmen. To what the tailors would do after a concealment spell is cast on them, and if they're hostile, then they'll act accordingly. Shocked by the sudden disappearance of Maddie's group, the tailors search the area for them, until Maddie's group appears before them asking for directions. One of the men reveals the direction to the inn they were staying at, and Maddie calls them out for knowing that. Hence, one of them captures Maddie in a chain rope and threatens to kill him if they don't do what he says. Both Alma and Luri try their best to not laugh at the situation. Maddie calls out for help, but his capture tells him to stay quiet and reveals to the girls that they captured him because they figured he was the weakest. They based this on the fact that Maddie was the party healer and threatens the girls to follow the Lord's orders or be killed. Calling out to Iris, Maddie asks her to use no weapons against them, and Iris then proceeds to defeat the men without her weapons. Once the men are all defeated, Maddie casts a tracking and demon sensing spell onto the men. The following day, the group awakens in their room at the inn and Maddie informs the group that they received a message from the king. Later, the group meets with Ike the king's messenger in one of the mine's tunnels. He informs the group of the king's response to Maddie's report that Lord Dokil Melkia is to be arrested for his exploration of the mines. Furthermore, Maddie is able to perform the arrest himself under the supervision of Ike. Maddie agrees to these terms and Alma, Iris, and Luri agree to help. Revealing the location of the Lord, Ike notes how heavily guarded it is, but Maddie is confident that they'll be able to handle it. At the manor where the Lord resided, there were no guards stationed outside, but Maddie's magic reveals that the inside of the place is heavily guarded. Charging into the manor, the men inside attack the group with a bombardment of spells, but Luri's barrier protects the group. Maddie then counterattacks with a lightning spell that costs all of the men there. Following Maddie's lead, the group locates the Lord in a hidden basement who thinks Maddie's group was dealt with by his men. This is disproven by Maddie's appearance, and Lord Melkia then summons a swarm of men to attack Maddie, who handily defeats them all with a fire spell. Astonished that Maddie was capable of doing this despite his intel being that Maddie was a mere healer, Ike then reads Melkia his rights and informs him that he's under arrest. Protesting these claims, Melkia states his refusal to accept this from a child and warns Maddie that bad things will befall the town without him. Maddie then knocks out Melkia with a snap of his fingers, and Ike promises to take the unconscious Melkia to the king for interrogation. Wanting to stay in the town to investigate how Melkia and his men were privy to the investigation into the corruption in the city, Maddie then shows Ike a burnt piece of paper about the investigation. Using his magic to scan it, Maddie believes the culprit is a demon. Luri asks if the demons are after the Magistones inside the dungeon. However, Maddie claims what they're after is the dragon vein. Maddie claims that the Magistone inside of the dungeon is far bigger than the one in the capital, and if it's infused with a spell, then it'd cause a worldwide calamity. Before Ike is able to leave to report this finding to the king, the ground starts to tremor, and Maddie deduces that the demons have already begun endowing their magic into the vein. Figuring they only have 2 hours until a monster horde reaches and decimates the town, Maddie and the group head into the dungeon. Upon reaching the dungeon, the group notices that no demons are around, and Maddie believes that they've headed into the deeper levels to lay a trap for them. Locating the vein behind a wall, Maddie has Iris dig it up, and he goes to the lower level to confront the demons while the girls try and purify the vein. He also casts a communication spell onto the vein so that they'll be able to communicate with one another while Maddie deals with the demons in the lower level. As Maddie deals with the monsters on his way down to the lower level of the dungeon, he keeps an open communication channel with Luri. Confronting the demon, Maddie magically wiretaps into its communication channel with another demon and learns that the demon on the other side is aware of Maddie's plans. Once their conversation is over, Maddie attacks the demon with his magically amplified sword, but the demon manages to block the attack with its own barrier spell. Wary of the type of barrier used to deflect his attack, Maddie hears the demon boss instruct the demon there to use tactics designed to deal with someone with a crest of failure. Noting that the demon is stronger than any other demon that he's faced to that point, Maddie contacts Lurie to prepare casting circles 14 and 17. The battle between the two then continues as the demon unleashes long-ranged attacks against Maddie, who hopes to get a clue to the demon boss's identity. After dodging the demon's attacks, Maddie learns from the demon's communication with its boss that they plan on using the trap against him. In retaliation, Maddie has Lurie activate the casting circle 14 to nullify the trap's power, and then the 17th to disrupt the demon's communication channel. Maddie then exploits the weakness in the barrier that was protecting the demon. The demon, now able to communicate with their boss again, informs him that he really may be the reincarnation of Gaius. However, the demon boss refutes that notion and orders him to use Disfortune. But despite this, Maddie still defeats the demon by decapitating it. With the demon destroyed, Maddie claims that the monster horde outside is disappearing, and both Iris and Alma have dealt with the monsters on their side. Trying to track down the boss demon's location, Maddie is surprised to learn that it hacked into his own communication channel as well. Learning that the demon's location was near a town known as Alenia, but that was a decoy. After a brief back and forth with the demon, it cuts off communication with Maddie, who looks forward to facing off against it. Camping inside the cave, Maddie's group discusses their next course of action, which is tracking down the head demon who instructed the demon Maddie fought from before. Having a signature trace of the magical signature that the demon used stored in a magistone, Maddie plans on using it to pinpoint the mastermind's location. Curious as to how Maddie is capable of such a skill, Maddie tells Lurie and Alma that it's a skill from 1,000 years ago that he learned by stumbling upon it. The source of the signature is at the Reincarnated Alliance, and to reach the area, Maddie plans on getting help from the king to make crossing the border easier while using Edward as a mediator. Eventually, the group reaches the Second Royal Academy, and is surprised to see that the academy was being rebuilt. Soon Edward approaches the group. They inform him that they dealt with the demon. In turn, Edward informs the group that the academy is being rebuilt to better withstand a demon attack. Since the construction is ongoing, all classes would be held at the First Royal Academy. The First Royal Academy students are also there helping with the construction process. In a log cabin, which is a makeshift office for Edward, Maddie fully elaborates the situation about the demon in the mine and their plans to track down the mastermind located across the border. Edward then asks where their destination is. Maddie answers the Reincarnated Alliance and asks for his and the king's cooperation. He agrees to help and will get a recommendation to get the guild's cooperation as well. Until the king gives his official approval for the permit, Maddie's group helps out with the construction, and during it Iris unintentionally causes some trouble. Afterward, Edward gives the group their permit, granting them access through the border along with the king's voucher. Heading past the border, Maddie notes that their destination in the Reincarnated Alliance is a restricted area, and the only way to gain access there is to level up their rank to A. How they can accomplish this is to complete a ranking test given to them by the guild there. Although ranking up to such a high-level rank would be an arduous task, Maddie hoped to use Iris in her true form to create a distraction as a contingency plan. Arriving in the Reincarnated Alliance city, the group first head to the guild there and are warmly greeted by the guild master, who heard from the king about their mission. Hearing the circumstances further from Maddie and the party, the guild master allows Maddie and his crew to take the rank ascension test, which would be conducted by a guild proctor. However, the person that the guild master wanted was unable to perform the duty due to succumbing to a wicked stomach ache, and S-ranked guild member Giluas shows up to take their place. Despite the guild master's pleas, Giluas arrogantly insists that he perform the duty, and Maddie allows it. Outside in the guild training grounds, Giluas passes Alma, Lurie, and Iris off the bat, but challenges Maddie to a duel. Figuring this was Giluas' plan from the start, Maddie accepts the proposal, and the duel rules are set that the battle is over when one concedes defeat or is KO'd. Giluas also notes that he doesn't use magic despite having great magical potential, and perhaps unconsciously using enhancement magic on himself. At the start of the battle, Maddie uses enhancement magic on himself as well and matches Giluas blow for blow while analyzing his fighting skills, capabilities, and using magic unconsciously. Amid the battle, Gilluas mimics a move that Maddie used during the battle to get an aerial advantage on Maddie. But it's still not enough. In the end, Maddie uses a bit of enhancement magic on himself to overpower Gilluas and make him concede defeat. Asking how it'd be possible to get as strong as him, Maddie gives Gilluas a textbook that he wrote about spell casting, while noting he could possibly surpass him. Perplexed about the gift as spell casting is mainly done by chanting, Maddie elucidates to Gilluas that not all spells are cast via chanting. He also details that he's been unconsciously casting spells, and if he learns how to consciously cast them, he'd become significantly stronger. However, Gilluas has trouble reading. Being seen off by Gilluas, Maddie declines to try to become an S-ranked adventurer and explains that their goal is simply to enter a highly restricted area. The place is the Edelise Plains in the Fokir region, and Elias notes he's heard the place has a weird vibe to it along with a myriad of other things. He offers his help and Maddie accepts it. Later the group arrive at the checkpoint and are given a wooden pass by one of the guards that grant them access through the gate. Although they pass without any trouble, Maddie reveals there's a hidden message to them that is certainly of the handiwork of the demons. Concluding that the demons may have full control over all of Fokia, Matt then notices a gang of goons partly hidden in the distance looking to ambush them. Instead of fighting them, Maddie plans on using a sleeping agent on them to make it easier for them to infiltrate the city they're heading to. To make the plan work, Maddie has the group split into two where Iris and he would face off against the ambushers, while Lori and Alma would set up and activate the sleeping agent. Maddie then casts an illusion spell to create copies of both Lori and Alma, and the plan goes off without a hitch. Aside from both Lori and Alma getting caught in the sleep agent's effect. Alma and Lori are both found sleeping, having been affected by the sleep agent trap that Maddie had them use against their ambushers. Before Maddie awakens the two, Iris draws on Alma's face, who becomes upset at her for doing that. Reaching their destination, Lori immediately senses, although faint, roughly 30 demonic presences all across the city. Maddie claims that the feeling is weak due to a concealment spell that's cast around the city. Surprised by this revelation, Lori and Alma claim that demons typically don't work in groups, but Maddie clarifies that's not the case for Demidemons. Unclear to what a Demidemon is, Maddie explains its background to both Lori and Alma. Finding a secret entryway leading to an underground tunnelway into the city, and the group enters it. Sensing the presence of a Demidemon ahead, Maddie phases through the wall and uses his magic to temporarily blind its senses with a stupefy spell, allowing the group to pass by it undetected. On the surface of the town, the group finds out from Maddie that the townsfolk have a spell called Though Paralysis on them, a spell just like stupefaction. Hoping to learn more about the demons and their plans, they infiltrate a factory that, before you enter it, a demon disguised as a human checks the stupefaction spell on those who enter. To counter this, Maddie casts an anti-Though Paralysis on them all and tells them to act as if they were under its influence. They do, and Iris causes a scene where she trips and falls. However, the demon that checks up on her figures that the Though Paralysis cast on her was too much, which causes it to degrade. Inside of the building, the group finds that the people working there are putting a special ore called Rankine magical ore into the furnaces there. Maddie concludes that the demons are doing this to refine the ore so that it could be made into explosives. In his opinion, Maddie states that a ton of the ores of 100 purity could blow up an entire kingdom. Despite it would take 100 years to accomplish, the demon's goal is all too clear. Outside of the factory, it's decided that the group must eliminate the demons controlling the city so they can save the people there. Using a map of the demons' current locations within the city, it's deduced that the demons entered from the city center and are capable of telepathic messaging. Because of the teamwork the demons are capable of, Maddie claims they'll use their teamwork against them. Creating a large pillar of light within the city, the demons instantly are alerted by this and are ordered by the head Demidemon to investigate the area. While the demons encircle the location of the pillar of light, their numbers start to dwindle as Maddie and his group deals with them. A brief flashback of Maddie's plan is shown where Iris was the center of the pillar of light as a way to lure the demons away from the center of town. Once about 8 of the 30 demons in the city have been dealt with, Maddie plans on turning up the pressure. The use of Magistones as makeshift bombs against the demons was Maddie's plan to have misinformation spread via the Demidemons' shared consciousness. This was to make them think traps were spread across the city, and the demidmans take the bait. In light of this, Maddie has Luri and Alma cast concealment magic on themselves. After the 22nd demidman was dealt with, the head demidman investigates the body of a recently deceased demidman. It then informs the remaining demidmans that it sensed the presence of two people, and that the demidman there wasn't killed by a trap, but by a sword. The demidmans then change their strategy to consolidate in one location, and Maddie figures the demons have figured out that there are no traps. The head demidman then instructs the remaining demons to use the magistones to blow up the city as a desperate attempt to eliminate their foes. However, before they could even make a move, Gilluas appears to eliminate the demidmans and the head demidman. On the other hand, Maddie, with a bit of help from Iris, eliminate the remaining demidmans, leaving Gilluas to face off against the head demidman. After a strenuous battle against the head demidman, Gilluas wins. Unbeknownst to the group, the head demidman was down, but not defeated. The demon that Gilluas defeated regains consciousness and tries to attack Luri and Alma, but Maddie steps in its way to block the attack. Astounded by this outcome, the defeated demon acts as a proxy for the mastermind demon to relay a message to Maddie, revealing it'll soon destroy its seal and completely revive. Its host demon then disintegrates into dust, and Maddie deduces that the demon Maddie talked to within the dungeon was the mastermind behind the demon city as well. Just then, Gilluas asks for help and Maddie heals him, and both Luri and Alma notice that with the demons defeated, all of the town residents have been freed from their thought paralysis spell. Hence, Gilluas uses his authority to take control of the situation and appoints the factory foreman as the provisional lord of the city. At the front gate of the city, Gilluas gives Maddie a permit to enter Phokia's restricted area, and with that the group parts ways with him. Arriving at their destination, Maddie opens up the entryway and leaps into the pit below to enter the ruins. Once everyone was inside of said ruins, Maddie splits the group up to find any weapons, but Iris heads off to search for food. With everyone gone, Maddie starts to power the ruins' core, until Luri returns with a sword that he created in his previous life. Alma then returns with a heavy spear she thought would be good for Iris to use. However, Maddie admonishes the idea due to the spear's magical properties. Iris then returns with a box of canned preserved foods with a preservation spell cast on them. However, due to the long duration of time passed, it's still expired. The ruins core is now fully charged, and it's used to track the mastermind demon's location with the help of a part from the factory. It's also deduced that the demon's plan is to wipe out humanity as a whole. After using a magistone to help detect and get more information on the demon's location and other information, they learn from Maddie the demon's name is Zardias, and that at their current strength they're unable to beat it. Iris laments that they don't have sufficient weaponry that could be found there that can help take the monster down, which gives Maddie an epiphany. Using the sword that Luri brought, Maddie uses it as a way to search for other magical items that would help them in their endeavor against the demon. Specifically, Maddie was looking for a certain sword, and as it so happens it was in the Kingdom of Eyes. En route to the kingdom while riding on Iris' back, Maddie gives Luri and Alma magistones to locate the sword. An outburst of power felt by the group then leads Maddie to conclude that Zardia's seal was broken. Maddie then orders Luri and Alma to search for the sword while he deals with Zardias, and the two then head for the kingdom's treasury to retrieve the sword. Maddie then prepares for the upcoming fight by enchanting his sword and hopes to seal the space Zardias was going to use to teleport to him as a way to either buy time or even damage him. The moment Zardia's portal opens up, Maddie tries to seal it, but fails, hence Iris is asked to use her dragon fire breath against him, but the attack was also ineffective against him. Wasting no time, Zardias pulls out a sword and with a single slash attacks Iris. Maddie uses multiple barriers to try and protect Iris, who dodges the attack just in the nick of time. Zardias then attacks and overpowers Maddie, who admits he's the most powerful demon he's faced up to that point. Meanwhile, Luri and Alma reach the treasure, but the guard there prevents them from entering, noting they need permission from the king to enter. Right as they're surrounded by more guards, the king appears and is explained by Luri of the current situation and allows the two entry into the treasury. Back outside, Maddie struggles to defend against Zardia's attacks and realizes that in order to win the fight, he'll have to give up his life. As Luri and Alma find the sword in the treasury that Maddie needed to face off against Zardias, Maddie struggles to fight against Zardias, who is fully aware of Maddie's plans and hints that he already has subordinates already inside the city's barrier. This is proven to be true as both Ashrel and Desrel are shown to have been revived by Zardias. Although Desrel was beaten, Ashrel has 2 student hostages and demands that the 2 surrender and hand over the treasure they recovered. Back outside, Maddie continues to struggle against Zardias, who tries to attack the barrier surrounding the city. Despite his attempts to deflect the magical attacks from Zardias, the demon deflects one attack onto Iris, who is protected by another barrier erected by Maddie. This leaves an opening for Zardias to attack Maddie, who is unable to protect himself against the attack. Zardias then taunts Maddie to ditch trying to protect the city and fully concentrate on facing off against him. Meanwhile, Luri and Alma continue to face off against Ashrel and lay down their weapons, while Maddie contemplates his options and decides to enchant his sword and attack Zardias. Just before Ashrel could take Luri and Alma's weapons, Edward, accompanied by a group of students, intervene in the scene, allowing the girls to counterattack. The students then bind Ashrel in a magical ring, allowing the girls to try and deliver the sword to Maddie. On the other hand, Maddie uses Iris as a feint to get a sneak attack on Zardias, but the plan fails. Iris lands down on the city below, and Alma throws Maddie the sword that he wanted, but this allows Zardias to fatally stab him in the back. However, the sword's special ability revives Maddie, and infuses him with an immense amount of magical power. With this new power, Maddie defeats Zardias, who warns Maddie of another chaos demon out there that will surely defeat him, and then disintegrates. On the ground, Maddie is embraced by Luri, and is soon joined by Alma, Iris, Edward, and the students that accompanied him. After offering to rebuild the broken parts of the city, Maddie uses up the remaining power in his sword, and in the process creates a giant hole in a mountain. Time passes by and Maddie, nearly fully recovered, is visited by Iris, Luri, and Alma in his room. They, along with Edward, then visit the king, whom they thank for allowing them to use the treasury again. The king in turn thanks them for slaying Zardias and rewards them with the sword that was from the treasury and another treasure from the treasury. While inspecting the treasury, Iris happens to find an arrow made of adamantine, and Maddie asks the guard there if it came with a bow made of the same material. The guard claims that it was so badly rusted that it was sold to a company called Isis. The group then visit the place and learn that the bow was melted down and mixed with various other metals. Despite the situation, Maddie decides to buy the metal along with the other metals as a way to abstract rare metals in the blocks. Maddie also purchases 2 gems for Iris and Luri. Outside of the company, Edward warns the group of an emergency situation. They all then are briefed about the situation by Guile about a wooden puppet that was retrieved, which originated from the neighboring country of Sihil. From Maddie's deduction, it was powered by human energy and is most likely was created by demons. With the belief that Sihil is under demon control, Guile asks that Maddie travel to Cyril and deal with the demon problem. That night, Maddie gifts Luri a pendant that he created for her, and she loves it. The following day, Maddie and the group are seen off by Edward and Guile before they head to Sihil. En route to their destination, Maddie briefly reflects on what Zardias told him about the other chaos demons out there. However, he's not discouraged by what's ahead and hopes to continue the adventure.